Let's paint this soft, mysterious scene. We're not going to do much of a drawing, a very, very simple drawing. And I'm going to have a little bit of a hill, distant mountains, very lightly drawn for those. And then I'll have some other hills that are closer to the front, a side hill. I got this reference photo mostly to get the look of fog and trees. And even though I'm changing it and putting some mountains in, I'm going to show you on this paper. I'm turning it upside down because the fog at the bottom is darker than the fog at the top. Look at that compared with this. Now you want a big wet puddle for this. You don't want to go over it twice. You want to just go over it once. And where you go over it twice will change the way it looks. And then your next layer, you touch it to that puddle. This is called a beaded wash. Make sure you have plenty of water on your brush to make a good bead. I'm going about a third of the way with this darkest color, and then I'm mixing some water into my big puddle. Now I painted my first one on a block, and it's a little bit easier to either have it taped down or to do it on a block of some kind, because my paper's curling as I tip it with this, and it makes it harder to keep an even bead. And now I'm just adding water. Now I'm still going to use this big brush, and I'm going to get this mountain line. Now that's still lighter than I want, darker than I want. I want it to be a suggestion of these mountains in the distance. I'm going to keep on going down and with water all the way down again. So that is layer number 2. Now one thing that I also always do, I'm going to get a completely clean brush for this. Watercolor paint always goes towards the edge when it dries, and I don't want this definite defined look. So I'm going along this edge and just putting water down and letting it run. Probably too much water, it's going to go backwards and make a bloom happen. Just touching that edge. You can even agitate a little bit if you want. It just is running a little bit, and it'll keep running until you dry it. And so it doesn't matter if it runs, but if you want to, you can take a clean but dried off brush and lift some of that, and then the quicker you dry it, the less it'll spread. You want your background blue to be very light, thinner than skimmed milk, and I'm actually going to water that pile down even more for these first layer of trees. They're just going to barely show, and they're not going to be too neat or tidy or anything. And as I go down, I'll add more water and let them fade out. Kind of tend to go back and forth so that things can dry. Now these trees in this photo reference, the branches sort of point downwards. And so I'm doing that. Now adding some water. Still putting branches, but they're going to be kind of watered down. And then it ends up in a puddle. You just put as many of these in as you want. You can do whatever you would like because it's your painting. I dip my brush and then I touch it to the sponge to get some of the water out, to spread it out in the bottom. And the branches aren't all equal on the same side. It's not like pine trees that have been trimmed for your Christmas tree. This is a Da Vinci Casaneo number 0, and it has a pretty good point. I'm making sure that they're not perfectly symmetrical. We want this to look like woods, not a tree farm. These ones I'm really just making these shapes and then washing them off at the bottom. So now I'm going to go into the second layer of darkness, or lightness, I should say. And it's going to be the same color. I won't add any more green to it yet. And these trees are going to be in front of those trees. When you start adding these forward trees, it starts gaining depth. If you like this video, then hit the like button, send me a note, and share it with your friends. Lots of little dots and dashes in these trees, always following that main trunk line. Try to make sure that your trees are not evenly spaced. In the comments below, I'd love to hear about any success you've had when you've painted mist. I'm going to try this brush. It's going to hold more water, that's for sure. It does help it. I mean, it does work for getting those little wispy edges. It's easy to get the trees darker with this brush because it holds so much water and it puts more water on it. So just dabbed a bit up. I didn't say it when I started, but with these, I started a third layer. Well, with this brush, this dagger brush, it does help to use a tissue and make it, some parts of it fade in a little bit better because it makes such a big puddle. So see, instead of putting that right in between those, I put it closer to here. When you work on something for a while, like even a half an hour, sometimes even less, it just starts to all look a certain way to you. And this has even been studied. It is a real thing. And you start to see what you think it is instead of what it really is. I don't know if that made any sense, but what I'm trying to get at is that it's good to get up and walk around and look at something else for a while. Now I want some more of these really light ones. Now I'm going to put some greener trees in. Still blue, but greener. And I'm filling it in darker down here. It tends to get darker at the bottom. And now I'm going to get into the last layer, and this is the one that makes things really pop, where you put a few trees, probably 3, right into the foreground. And I'm going to add some green, still bluish. So I really like this right here, so I don't really want a tree right in front of it. And this needs something, so I think that I'm going to have a tree coming across there, but not right in front of it, because I don't want it lining up with that tip. And so that'll be my first tree. Taking some of the paint off so that I can get some more of the detail better, and so that it doesn't get so dark that it looks black. I'm just going to touch my tissue to the edges of these and leave the center darker so that it still looks like it's fading into the mist. I want one branch to come way over here because I don't like that part. So we're going to just cover it. One thing that I decided looking at this from the distance, that there should be some more of the really faint trees right in here, even going up past the mountain line. That's that medium color. Now I am going to do a little bit of spritzing, and I'm going to let it run a little bit, just these 2 really dark trees. but I'm not going to let it run a lot. I'm here ready with my tissue. I've got a big pot there. I'm going to take my tape off and then we can really see what we have. I think it's time to sign it.